Welcome to Jawabu Talk, here for you. Thank you, our viewer, for being tuned in. My name is Regina Wafula, a born-again Christian, and I'm a counseling psychologist. I'm grateful to God that today we have clocked a month since we started Jawabu Talk. I take this opportunity to thank each one of you for your likes, views, subscriptions, comments, and also shares. You are the reason we are growing. We value each one of you and invite you to this talk of today. We have our talks, Jawabu Talks, every Saturday at 6 p.m., where we strengthen the family bond and restoration. God bless you. Now, today we are going to start on a new topic: adverse effects of alcohol and substance abuse to our families. Alcoholism and drug abuse have an adverse effect to the individual, family, and community at large. Today's topic is one that I identify with closely. My late father, who I loved and respected so much, died of adverse effects of alcohol consumption. His behavior affected my thinking, which affected my emotions, and I exhibited behaviors such as anger, rage, and mistrust. As we continue to address the issues of father wound and what results to father wound, our guest today is a recovered addict, and he'll talk to us of how such behavior of alcohol and substance abuse affects us as families. You could therefore be stuck, or you don't even know what to do, and you are the affected one like I was. There is hope. Well, we welcome Henry.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, and feel at Jawabu Talk, where we talk real stuff and we find solutions to these problems. Now, tell us about yourself and your family of origin briefly.
Thank you very much, Regina, for having me over at Jawabu. My name is Henry, as you've heard, Kipchilis, Cherop, 46 years old. I'm a last-born son. I'm also a father of two. I have a son who is 21 and a daughter who is 16. And I'm a recovered alcoholic, or a recovered drug addict for that case. I'm also a student at St. Paul's University, counseling psychology. I'm also saved, and Jesus Christ is King in my life. And so thank you very much for having me over at Jawabu.
Awesome. Henry, I'd want you to give us your journey, how it all started, your childhood experiences to adulthood. Just give us briefly your journey.
Okay. Please. Thank you very much. So, as I mentioned before, I'm a last-born son. I was born to Christian parents and raised in a Christian family. 3 brothers and 2 sisters. And I was an obedient boy when I grew up. Went to boarding school in class 1, and eventually did well in my exams and proceeded to high school. And I started my journey towards addiction while at a very tender age. I started experimenting with smoking when I was 13 years old.
Experimenting.
13
years.
When I was 13 years old.
Okay.
And I took my first sip of alcohol when I was 17. So I took my first drink when I was in Form 3. That was way back in 91.
A real drink this time, not a
real
sip.
Drink, yes. Okay. That was way back in 1991. And
time you're in Form 3?
I was in Form 3.
Okay.
I was still a teenager, So by the time I was 17, I had experimented with 2 drugs.
Okay.
I had experimented with cigarettes, and I had experimented with alcohol. And then after that, I did my exams, my Form 4 exams, and I didn't do very well because of obvious reasons, because I had already started my journey towards addiction, and I did not qualify for university. So my parents enrolled me for private tuition in a private university, and that is where I started my journey towards my 3rd drug. I was introduced to weed, and the common name, of course, is bangi in the street. Swahili name, marijuana. So that was my first year when I was in Baraton University.
What were you pursuing?
I was pursuing geography education. I was meant to be a teacher, but that did not work out.
Was it your passion?
It was my passion.
Okay.
It was my passion.
Okay.
Yes. So in my first year, I also got introduced to the world of heroin when I was still in university. So basically, those are the 4 drugs that I ended up indulging in, and eventually I was kicked out of university, and I went to the world. I went and lived with my parents, and that is when my life took a downward spiral. Yes.
We've heard from Henry that he started by experimenting, and this escalated into other levels of addiction. Now, Henry, tell us what drove you into those habits? Did you lack attention from home? Was it peer influence? What really was the driving force behind your addiction, or rather your that behavior?
Okay, thank you, Regina. There are 2 reasons why I got into drugs. One is because of low self-esteem. Low self-esteem. I wanted to belong. I wanted to fit in. And I wanted to be loved by these friends that I had. And the only way these friends were going to accept me was if I was going to use what they were using.
Okay.
Yes, so that is how I got drawn into this world. Because this was basically peer pressure. So I was introduced into drugs by friends, because as I told you, I grew up in a Christian family. My parents never drank, they never smoked. My siblings never drank, never smoked. We didn't have drugs in our home. And basically, so the 2 issues was peer pressure and low self-esteem.
What resulted to low self-esteem? I'm considering that the family setup was warm, Christian background. So what made Henry have this issue, or struggle with the issue of self-esteem, which many of us suffer from? Yes.
Thank you very much, Regina. By low self-esteem, this is what happens. As I told you before, I went to boarding school in class 1.
Okay.
So immediately after nursery school, I went straight to boarding school. So I think I missed mom, and I missed dad, and I missed that home setting because I was too young to enroll for a boarding school, to look after myself, to
to grow up so fast. So I think I missed that setting at home, that love from my mom, that love from my dad, and I decided to go and look for it somewhere else. And I ended up in this group of friends who were doing the wrong thing. And I realized that I needed to be accepted, to be loved. And I ended up in their hands, and I ended up smoking with them, and eventually drinking, and this led to other drugs. Because in the drug world, there is how you get introduced. There are drugs that we call the gateway drugs.
Okay.
And the gateway drugs are normally cigarettes and alcohol. And that is why I started with cigarettes when I was 13 and eventually drinking when I was 17.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you're in this age, you said you started, your first sip was when you were 13 years?
Smoking.
Smoking, 13 years.
Yes.
Your parents never realized that there was something not right? How are you able to cover up?
Okay, they never realized because I was in boarding school. I was in boarding school, so they never knew what was going on in my life. Because I would go to school and I was there for 3 months and I was doing something different, and I would come home for the holidays, and of course they never knew what was happening. Yes.
All right. Awesome. Nice to know that the gaps that we have in our emotions and in our lives, they need to be filled. And for them to be filled, it can either be family or friends out there who some of them have even negative effects on us. Henry, that was quite something. Class 1 in boarding school. Okay, now tell us some of the signs that one can be able, a parent could be out there wondering, what can I do? How can I know that my child is getting into this world of drugs or alcoholism? What are some of the signs that the parents should be out there looking for signs? And you know, as a teenager, they want you to trust them. So you also don't want to have that, you don't want to show them that you don't trust them. Really, you're not judging them. So that they don't feel judged, and they don't, because you see, in psychology, during the adolescent stage, that is when our children are having identity crisis. At the same time, this is a stage where if it is well maneuvered with the help of the family, especially parents, a child can be able to sail through. So tell us some of those signs that parents can be out there to look out for their children, but not spying on their children.
Okay, thank you very much. There are many ways a parent can know that a teen is in drugs. There are many ways, but I'll just mention 2 or 3 that are very important. One is the sleep-wake cycle. When you realize the teen or your son or your daughter, the sleep patterns are erratic. They are either waking up late or they are sleeping too early. This could be signs of a drug addiction. Another sign that your child could be in drugs is money issues. When your teen is always asking for money, your son is always asking for money, or your daughter, and you wonder why they need this money, they could be starting their journey into drugs. Another reason why suspicion should be aroused by parents is when children need a lot of privacy. They don't want their rooms to be accessed, and they, for example, when they have a laptop or something, they don't want to use them when they're around their parents.
You're right.
They could be signs of an addiction. So basically, and of course, the classic case of addiction is when your child starts neglecting how they look. You know, when they start to wear that jeans for 2, 3, 4 days, you know,
Yes.
and they are not showering, they are not looking after themselves, they are grooming, you know. And that is a classic tale of a teen who is going towards drugs. Yes.
Oh, those are awesome signs to know about. Now, after university, you dropped out from university because of the habits that you had. Then after that, you had a family. Tell us about how it was with your family.
Yes, my family. So after I was kicked out of university, my first year, because I was in a Christian university, Baraton University, and zero tolerance towards drugs. So when they realized that Henry was doing drugs, I was discontinued. So I came back home. So I'm jobless. I have this drug life that I've just started, this drug culture, and one thing led to another, and I got married.
Oh, okay. In your state?
Yes.
Okay.
Somebody loved me
Nice.
in my state.
Nice. Nice.
So God works in mysterious ways.
You're right.
So eventually
You got married.
I got married.
Yes.
And
Somebody loved you.
somebody loved me.
Yes.
Somebody loved me
Yes. In your state.
in my state.
Yes.
And I became.
Was it obvious that you were into the drug world? Was it obvious?
I was in the state where I was taking drugs, but I was still taking care of myself.
Okay.
So I had two lives. I had two lives.
Okay.
I was this Henry who was looking good out there for the public, but I had another life that I was already deep inside. Yes. So I became a father.
And did your wife know that you were in this habit?
She knew. So I went there. I became a father. I got a son. And things became tougher after I became a father.
Yes.
Because I didn't have a job.
Okay.
I didn't have any money.
Alright.
And I had a child and a wife to look after.
Yes.
So, and I had to finance my addiction at the same time. I was in a situation where I could not feed my children. I could not clothe my children. I could not feed them. Then one thing led to another, and there was violence in the home because of the addiction is cruel, because that is how things do happen. So there was violence in the home, and of course they were my children. Of course, were growing up in a very tough situation, and then one thing led to another, and I became a father again.
Okay.
My second child.
Or second child. Okay.
So the first one was a son, and then the second one was a girl. So, and things became worse, and I started to sell stuff around home to finance my addiction, because I had to look for money. So I started getting into petty crime to finance my addiction.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. That's a journey, Henry. Oh my goodness. So you are looking for money, selling things, household stuff.
Household stuff.
Whatever amount of money, as long as you're able to service this addiction or this behavior, right?
So this is what happened. I started to sell things that I could see around me. I started to sell spare parts. I started to vandalize my parents' stuff around the house. My dad's car, for example.
You sold your dad's car or
No, just to vandalize some parts here and there. I started to sell cows at home.
Ah, Henry, you had gone another level.
Yes. I started to sell milk from the from the dairy.
So you milk the cows, or they already milked, ready to sell milk?
So you know the farm setup,
Farm
where
setup.
where you're supposed to deliver the milk. So I would make sure I disappear with a few liters of milk before they got to the destination. Then I graduated from stealing stuff around the house. Now
Because you had exhausted.
Yes, I had
What you're
exhausted
seeing.
what I was seeing.
Yes.
Because I had sold chicken, I had sold cows,
Oh my.
I had sold small things around.
Oh.
Then I graduated now to stealing my money from my mother's handbag. I started stealing phones from maybe a visitor. So visitors would come to my place,
Oh my.
and 2 minutes later I would disappear with a phone. And within 10-15 minutes I had already sold it, and I was blacking out somewhere in a bar. And then I went to the next level, where I started now selling the big things. Yes. And I sold land that had been given by my father.
Oh no, Henry.
Yes. I sold a car that belonged to me and my children, me and my wife and my children, because I was married. So that was my family's property. And then the next thing, I started to sell my clothes, my shoes. That is the nature of addiction.
It escalates from one level to the other.
Yes. So this is when my wife decided that things were not working out as she thought, because she thought all this time that I would change. You know? That is why she stayed so long. Because as I said, my journey started in 1991. So this is 20 years later. 20 years
Hoping
later,
you
2
still
decades,
change.
hoping that I would still change. But when she realized that I was going deeper and sinking deeper into this addiction thing, she took the children with her and she left.
That was a new journey
Yes.
of being alone as Henry.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Now, I want to look at this. You talked about violence and how it was affecting your spouse and children. Were you later feeling guilty about all that, or you numb yourself by taking more and more drugs?
Of course, the guilt was always there. Because as a human being, the moment you start to hurt others, to hurt people you love, your own children, your own family, and it is very painful. But the cycle of addiction was such that to numb that feeling, you have to drink and use again to forget. So you're always in that cycle of drinking and using and forgetting and becoming violent again and again and again.
Now tell us your turnaround. What events took place in your life?
So as I talked about the point where my children left. So after my children left, I had no reason to live anymore, because according to me, that was the end of the world. Because I had no respect from the society anymore. So I decided to end my life. I started having suicidal ideation, because I thought now I was useless. I had no reason to live. I was now drinking in the slums. I had gone to the level where I was now drinking in a slum called Canyon in Nakuru, and I had lost hope. I was sleeping in the trenches, and this is the point where my friends started dying, one after the other, and they died for many reasons. They died because of HIV/AIDS. Some committed suicide. Some of them died in accidents. Some of them died because of overdoses. One or two were shot by cops because of the crime I had talked about. Some of them died because of liver cirrhosis, because of the drugs we had taken for so long.
That's what my dad died of.
Sorry about that. And my best man in my wedding died because of liver cirrhosis.
Oh.
May his soul rest in peace. And we were drinking together all this time. So I knew if Cecil was dead and all my friends had died before me and I had buried all of them, then I knew my time had come. My time had come. Then my own health started to fail. My own health. So this is how it started. I started to pass blood. I started to pass blood in my stool. And this is when I realized the end has come. Of course, I could not tell anybody because it is embarrassing. I was afraid. And after all, I knew I was going to die. So I kept it to myself. Then I started getting problems with my gastrointestinal system, from my mouth all the way to my exit. I could not eat anymore because of the wounds that I had because of the drinking.
Yeah. And this time you're drinking cheap liquor?
I was drinking cheap liquor in the slums. Changa, I was drinking anything I could get. Now I had sunk to a level where, Regina, I was walking from bar to bar asking for alcohol from strangers.
Oh, now you're even begging.
I'm begging for cigarettes, for alcohol. So.
And this time, are you looking all unkempt or?
Yeah, I was wearing one jeans in 2 weeks. I was not showering.
Oh.
I was sleeping in the streets.
I wish you can share some of your photos before and after.
They are terrible.
Oh.
They are terrible. They are terrible. I would wake up in the morning and I would see blue. You know, when you see blue, that's the sky.
Meaning you slept somewhere outside.
You slept outside.
Not playing somewhere.
When you see blue, that's the sky. So you were somewhere in the trenches. But I thank God because God is a good God. He preserved me. So, and when I realized I was going to die, I always wanted to change. All this time, I wanted to get out, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how.
So all this time, you're struggling on how you can get out of this behavior.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you couldn't talk to family, couldn't talk to your pastor, couldn't talk to friends, or because your friends were just like you, or how was it?
You know, addiction is a family disease. So it affects the whole family in one way or another.
True.
Yeah? My brothers at some point were not talking to me. My sisters were married, so we had not met for a long time. I had conned them so many times, they didn't want to talk to me anymore.
Those emergency calls.
Yes, those emergency calls.
Yes, that people
I had become sick so many times, and I remember even what my brother told me one day, you know, Henry, you've lied to us so many times that you're sick. One day you will actually become sick. You know?
Yes.
And so you had asked me why I was not talking to my people.
Yes.
It's because they were tired. You know? They were tired. And But eventually, they never gave up on me. They never gave up on me. My mom is a very prayerful woman, a prayer
Bless
warrior.
God for her.
So she had prayed for me so much. And eventually my family came after me. They came looking for me. And they talked to me. They told me about my kids, how my kids were doing, because I had not seen them for so many years. So many years. And that is when I realized that there was a reason why I had not died. And that is when I got this idea in my mind, that the reason why I was the only one remaining after all my friends had died was because Jesus wanted me to use me to reach out to others out there. And that is when I decided to get help, to change my life. Yes.
Now it reached a point you sought for help. Did help come?
Yes, help came. My family came and they got me from wherever I was, and they took me to rehab. Yes.
So now tell us about the rehab, the experience at the rehab.
So my family took me to rehab. They took me to a rehab called Teen Challenge. Teen Challenge is a faith-based rehabilitation center. And I was taken to Teen Challenge, where I stayed for 1 year. So that was way back in 2017. So I got to rehab, and this is a Christian rehab. No TV, no money, no phones, no newspapers, no visitors. And I was there for 1 year. And that is where I met my new friend, Jesus Christ. I got saved when I was in rehab. And I finished my program in November of 2018. And I came back to the world. But this is the story. When I finished my program,
Maybe before you end that story or
Yes.
start on that story. Thank you, viewer. We'll continue the discussion next week, finding out how Henry has changed and the new Henry that now is out there talking to people who are addicts and talking to them so that their lives can be changed. A few recaps. We realized that Henry was struggling with a few issues, and that is esteem issues and also peer pressure. He was looking for love out there, and he really got it because his friends are the ones who introduced him to the habits of addiction. Parents, you need to take care of your children. You can be able to see the signs. He's already explained the signs. One of the signs is money issue. The other one, they become unkept. The other one, they want to be in isolation in their rooms, locked up throughout. And of course, the other one is they're very secretive. You don't know what they're up to. So parents, be on the lookout for your children. Our children need our love. Our children need our presence. Our children need us as parents. God bless you. See you next time as we continue with the same discussion. God bless you.